sound of raindrops hitting the stone. I loved him. The air between them seemed to thicken. Richard's throat tightened, not from anger but from disbelief. He didn't tell me anything about you, he said, more to himself than her. I know, Maya said gently. He didn't want you to know. He was afraid. Richard turned to her, something old and sharp pressing into his chest. Afraid of what? Afraid that you wouldn't understand. That you'd think I was after him for money or a place to sleep. That you'd pull him away from me like you did with everything else he cared about. Those words stung. Because deep down Richard knew there was truth to them. He had always controlled Jacob's world. His friends, his future, even the tempo of his days. He had mistaken protection for possession. Love for oversight. Maya continued, her voice shaking now. We met at the shelter last spring. I was 17, sleeping behind the old train station. He never judged me. Never looked at me like I was broken. He listened. Really listened. He brought me food, books, even a spare jacket. He taught me guitar in the stairwell. He'd sneak out late just to sit with me. Tears slid down her cheeks now. He promised he'd help me get off the streets. He was saving up for a tiny place for the two of us. Said he wanted to show you that love doesn't come with labels. Richard's hands trembled, resting on his knees. He remembered how Jacob had seemed distracted during those last months, more distant yet strangely happier. How he had refused the business internship in New York. He thought his son was being rebellious. He never once considered his son might be falling in love. Maya pulled out a wrinkled envelope from her pocket and held it out. He wrote this for you. Told me to give it to you, if anything ever happened. With shaking fingers Richard opened it. Inside was Jacob's familiar handwriting. The note was short. Dad, I hope one day you'll meet Maya. She changed my life. Not because she needed help but because she gave me something money never could. Realness, rawness, and truth. Don't look past her like the world does. Look through her. That's how I found myself. And maybe, you will too. Richard couldn't stop the tears. They came silently, mixing with the rain on his face. For a man who had everything, he suddenly felt like he'd been given the one thing he truly needed, clarity. He looked at Maya, not as a homeless girl, not as a stranger, but as a piece of his son's heart still breathing in this world. Come with me, he said softly. Let's get out of the rain. She stared at him, eyes wide with cautious hope. Are you sure? She asked. He nodded, voice thick. I should have found you long ago. As they walked away from the grave together, the storm above began to ease. And for the first time in a year, Richard felt something he thought was buried with Jacob. Sometimes the people we ignore carry the last fragments of those we've lost. And sometimes healing comes not in boardrooms or bank vaults, but at a graveside in the rain, beside someone who loved your child just as deeply as you did. Would you have forgiven her? Or yourself? Tell us in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real-life stories that move the heart and stir the soul.